This talk was given by Roshi Martin, guiding teacher of the Endless Path Zendo, a lay Buddhist community in Rochester, New York. Join our practice, in person or online, at endlesspathzendo.org.
So today is Sunday, June 15th. This is the fourth and final day of our 4-day non-residential session here at Endless Path Zendo. And today we'll resume with looking at the really wonderfully lively and so to the point autobiography from 500 years ago of Zen master Han-shan. Of course, this is not the Han-shan of the Tang era, who was the eccentric Zen person and poet, but Han-shan, the Zen master of the Ming Dynasty from around 1540s to about 1620. Really a very down-to-earth person, so interesting. So we'll pick up a bit where we left off yesterday, which were in his 33rd year. In his dream, the monk is massaging him harder and harder until he was pounding me like laundry on a rock. I woke up in a sweat, feeling that all my internal organs had been washed clean. From that time on, my body and mind have always felt purified, as though they had been bathed in wonder and delight. Most of my dreams were about saints and sages. The more you listen to Buddhist teachings, the more you will have good dreams. Now, his 34th year, 1579 to 1580. The Emperor Mother, wishing to ensure both the happiness of the late Emperor's spirit and the protection of the present Emperor's life, ordered the government to revamp Da Wan Temple and its Sharia stupa at Five Peak Mountain. But some of the government administrators thought that Five Peak Mountain was too far from the capital, and so they decided to build Da Chi Shu Temple, which was much closer to the capital. It wasn't until the report of the temple's completion was presented to the Empress Mother that she learned that her wishes had not been carried out. Immediately, she ordered a court official to take 3,000 workers to Five Peak Mountain to carry out her original instructions. This was the first religious work that the court official had undertaken, and I worried that if the building project didn't go well, the Dharma doors might be slammed shut. And I gave a helping hand and tried to see that everything was completed satisfactorily. My 35th year, 1580 to 1. That year, by imperial order, a land tax had been imposed, and all lands throughout the country had to be measured. Five Peak Mountain had always been exempt from taxation, but a local official contrived to twist the truth and to levy a tax of 500 piculs of rice on our region. We were repeatedly sent orders to measure and declare the amount of taxable land we held. All the monks worried about this, and I had to try to solve the problem. I carefully petitioned high government officials who quickly canceled the local officials' orders. We were able to maintain the sanctity of Five Peak Mountain. The 36th year, 1581 to 2. Miao Feng also used his own blood to make a copy of the Avatamsaka Sutra, and when he was finished, we decided to organize a great ceremonial service called a Moksha Parishad. The purpose of this service was to enable participants to confess sins and to receive instructions in morality and discipline. When Miao Feng collected enough money and the arrangements for the meeting were ready, we invited 500 well-known monks from the capital to participate in the service. However, at the same time, the emperor ordered prayers for the birth of an heir. He sent an official to Wudong, a Taoist locale, to request the appropriate prayers, while the emperor's mother sent another official to Five Peak Mountain with the same request. I thought that while all prayers were beneficial to the country, prayers for an imperial heir were of particular importance. Many people thought that we should cancel the Moksha Parashad service, but I didn't see the need to cancel it. Rather, I intended to change its purpose. Instead of the monks performing the service for their own spiritual advantage, they could offer their orisons and exhortations to the cause of the imperial heir. Unfortunately, neither Miao Feng nor the official fully understood my idea. The official was particularly displeased and criticized me openly. Finally, they both consented, but not before a rumor had spread that I had disobeyed an imperial order by continuing to prepare for the Moksha Parashad. Though we stirred much controversy, the true purpose of our meeting was determined, and no harm befell us. Later that year, as the stupa repairs were being completed, I placed my copy of the Avatamsaka Sutra. Remember, he had originally written his in blood, his own blood. I remember when Isaac Bashiva Singer was here in Rochester, I was instrumental in bringing him here. Of course, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. It was truly one of the Dostoevsky of our time. And I got to be his host for the weekend. So he was once asked why he was a vegetarian. He was an ardent vegetarian. And he said, for health reasons. And he said, not my health, the chicken's health. So he wrote the Avatamsaka Sutra with his own blood, not someone else's. And I placed a copy of my spiritual vows inside the structure. There it is again. The importance of having our vows to live by, not our habits, not our conditioning, not our unconscious predilections and forces, but to live by vows. We do this at the end of every formal period of Zazen. We make our great vows for all, 4 vows. This is the foundation of an awakening life. To vow for our purpose here will be for the welfare of all beings. To me, it seems terribly important in this time when some people are living out of the most selfish vows, to make vows for the welfare of all and to live up to them. This Saturday coming, remember, we have our first summer Jukai. It will take place during the regular practice period on Saturday morning. Important time to renew our vows. The 16 Bodhisattva vows for the welfare of all. So I hope you can make it either by Zoom or in person. In any case, you'll send out information on that, Rose. Thanks. So I placed a copy of the Avatamsaka Sutra and a copy of my spiritual vows, my personal vows, inside the structure. We had to prepare to celebrate the completion of the work, but since Miao Feng was in the capital, the preparations were left entirely to me. For 3 straight months, I barely slept, as I made all the arrangements to supply 1,000 guests with food, drink, and lodging. For the Festival of Water and Land, which lasted, interesting, isn't it? The Festival of Water and Land, to renew our relationship to the water and land. This is almost indigenous throughout the world, the sense of a relationship to the planet, to the water and land, and to honor, to respect, to celebrate, to cherish this very place where we are, not to abuse it, not to misuse it. We have so much yet to learn about how to be human beings on this planet, in this world. And there's evidence all around us that we've forgotten how to be human beings. These are little hints of what's open to us to renew. So in every tradition, it's not just Buddhism, in every indigenous tradition, in all of our backgrounds, genetically, we carry this information. We should do our best to open ourselves to it. So, for the Festival of Water and Land, which lasted 7 days and nights, I fasted, not even eating rice and drinking only water. I still managed to have enough strength to attend all the services. The festival was a great success. 500 tables of offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas were changed every day without confusion. Visitors were amazed and thought that this had to have been accomplished by gods, and indeed I knew that we had had the Buddha's special blessing. The 37th year, 1582-3. That spring, I lectured on the Huayan Zhuangtang, State Minister Qing Liang's commentary on the Avatamsaka Sutra. For 100 days, a large gathering of monks and laymen came from everywhere to attend. In addition to lecturing, I had to supervise the preparation of 10,000 meals a day. Despite this number, the meals were served in an orderly fashion, and the same good silence prevailed during the lectures, continued during meal times. But after this event, I was completely exhausted. I had no energy left at all. Considerable money and provisions had been donated to the monastery, and when these gifts were collected and distributed, Miao Feng and I took our rice bowls and went on a journey. But our paths soon diverged, Miao Feng's going to Lu Ya and mine going to Zhangxiyan in the Zending district, where I planned to have a nice vacation. I composed the following lines. Life goes on. No mountain peak impales the sun. If you come to a break in your path, leap across. Life goes on. No mountain peak impales the sun. If you come to a break in your path, leap across. That year, in the 8th month, an heir was born to the emperor. I went to Zhangfang Temple, west of the capital, where I supervised the carving of wooden blocks for printing the preface of the sayings of Zhang Feng. In the winter, I performed the water rituals as Shishi. The 38th year, 1583-4. In the first month of the year, when the water rituals as Shishi were completed, it's so interesting to see how Zen was woven into indigenous ceremonial life. Something very ancient, pre-Buddhist, just something very rich about that strikes me, this ancient world. In any case, I decided to go to Donghai, also since I had become famous or infamous because of the successes of the prayer meeting at Five Peak Mountain. I decided to change my name from Cheng Yin to Han-shan. Fame does not aid anyone's practice. Remember when he was a great writer and he entered this Zen sickness of having 1,000 mouths or horses over his body, and every mouth uttering a poem, and is just writing poem after poem. He couldn't stop, and he said, "This is the demon of literary fame." He tried to free himself from it. Yeah, now he's going, fame does not aid anyone's practice. I remembered the vow I once took to rebuild Bao'an, my old temple, which had been destroyed by fire. I had taken that vow 17 years before, when I was 21. I now realized that I had gone far enough away in time and place from my vow. I would go no further or farther than the Donghai region. On the 8th day of the 4th month, I came to Laoshan. When I had separated from Miaofeng, he told his disciple Dizhong to accompany me and to serve me. Miaofeng was afraid of my traveling alone, and I accepted the help. In a chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra, I had once read about the Bodhisattva's abode. It said at Donghai, there is a place called the Narayana Cave, where, since the earliest times, bodhisattvas came to dwell. Subsequently, I had read Master King Liang's commentary, which revealed that the Sanskrit word Narayana means firm and stable, which is the meaning of Laoshan at Donghai. According to another book, Yugong, the cave existed in the Qingzhou district. I very much wanted to visit the Bodhisattva's abode, but Laoshan, being wild and remote, was not a particularly hospitable place to live. I traveled to the south of the mountain where there was a deep valley. Beyond it lay the mountains, in front of it the great ocean. The valley was so strange and uniquely beautiful. that it seemed to belong to another world. In the valley, there was an ancient temple called the Avalokiteshvara Shrine, of which only the foundation remained. I researched the history of this temple and learned that in the beginning of the Yuan Dynasty, 1280 to 1341, 7 Taoists, by forging the name of the Emperor Zhizhu, who was away from court on a mission, were able to take possession of this Buddhist property, which they quickly converted into a Taoist temple. Upon the emperor's return, Buddhist monks petitioned him to restore their property to them. Eventually, however, the remoteness of Laoshan was too great. Nobody cared about the temple, and it fell into ruin. But I liked its isolation. I liked the prospects of being left unperturbed, and so I decided to stay there. At first, I lived on a mat under the shelter of a tree. But then 7 months later, Upasaka Zhang Da Jin, Upasaka means layman, a native of the district, came and built practicer layman. A native of the district came and built a hut for me. I stayed alone in the hut for a year with great enjoyment. During this time, I had only one friend, Dharma Master Gui Feng of Lingshan Temple at Jimo. He was the region's Dharma Eye. He was the region's Dharma Eye. The 39th year, 1584 to 5. That autumn, in the 9th month, the Empress Mother, grateful for the successful prayer meeting held for the birth of the imperial heir, wanted to reward Master Da Feng, Miao Feng, and me for organizing the meeting. Master Da Feng and Miao Feng received their reward, but since I was absent, she had to send Zhuan An, abbot of Longhua Temple, to search for me. Knowing that I was at the seashore, he came to deliver the news that Her Majesty desired to reward me. I told him that the greatest reward I could possibly receive was to be allowed to remain at Laoshan for the rest of my life. When the abbot reported my reply to Her Majesty, she graciously granted enough land on the western hill to build a temple residence for me to use. But when the official arrived to inform me of this reward, I declined to accept it. Then, when he reported my refusal to Her Majesty, she persisted and sent an official to give me 3,000 gold coins with which I could build a rectory at Laoshan. Again, I declined the reward, saying that I was very happy with my hut and didn't need anything more. But the official insisted that I accept. He was afraid to return to Her Majesty without having fulfilled her instruction. I offered a compromise. It was a time-honored practice for the imperial household to extend relief to famine victims. Since there currently was a severe famine occurring in Shandong province, I guess they had no FEMA at the time. These things can happen when there's no rule of law, and it goes by the whim of people in charge. So, fortunately, why not, I asked, extend Her Majesty's mercy to those starving people? I then asked the official to distribute the money to those who needed it. When the records of the donations were delivered to Her Majesty, she was greatly pleased and deeply moved. Later, however, I was accused of misusing court funds. What a world, huh? Very familiar. Here he is. He's refusing to accept all kinds of monies and saying, give it to the poor, give it to those who need it, give it. And so court officials get really jealous and they start accusing him of stealing the money. When I was brought before the district court, I asked the magistrate to refer to the accounts in the court treasury. He reviewed the records and, upon determining that all of the funds had been used for famine relief, declared the accusation to be entirely false. My 40th year, 1585 to 6. The people living in this eastern district of Donghai were not Buddhists. They followed the Lo Qing cult of Taoism, which had originated in Chengyang at the foot of the mountain and spread eastward. No one had heard about Buddhism's three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. One day a member of the Huang clan, the largest clan in the area, came to see me to inquire about the Dharma. I was able to convert him to Buddhism, and then after a while, when clan elders and their followers also came, I converted them too. The 41st year, 1586 to 7. That year, an imperial order was given to distribute the collections of the Tripitaka to various temples. At first, certain works that had been written in China had not been included, but the Empress Mother ordered that these works also be included. When the printing was completed, the emperor ordered that 15 sets should be given to well-known temples around the country. 4 of the sets were distributed to 4 border region temples. At the time, the Emperor Mother, still remembering the prayer meeting in Five Peak Mountain and my refusal to accept a reward, ordered that a set of the Tripitaka, that's the 3 baskets, all the organized Buddhist teachings, the ethical codes, etc., and the sutras, be sent to Donghai for me. Unfortunately, no one informed me in advance of this gift, and when it arrived, there was no place to put it, and it had to be stored temporarily at the district office. When I read for myself the imperial order accompanying the Tripitaka, I decided to go up to the capital to express my gratitude. The Empress Mother graciously asked the court ladies to donate money for the restoration of the temple at Donghai so that it could properly house the Tripitaka. She also requested that the temple be named Ha Yin, which means symbol of the sea. Having heard that Master Daquan had gone to see me at Laoshan, I hurried to return there to meet him. We met at the foot of the mountain, just as I was arriving and he was departing. Together we returned to my place by the shore, and after his visit, which lasted 20 days, he gave me a poem that contained the following lines. Leisurely, I live by the seashore, having dropped my burden of fame east of the mountains. Leisurely, I live by the seashore, having dropped my burden of fame east of the mountains. That winter, in the 11th month, after more than 5 years of nearly nonstop work, my body and mind finally found true rest one evening in the temple's new meditation hall. What ecstasy! I had sat in meditation all evening, and then during the night I got up and looked at the sea. Time ceased. There was no movement in the ocean. No waves or ripples disturbed the water surface. Moonlight glistened on the still water as though it were shining on a field of snow. Everything was filled with light. The earth, the sky, the sea, and even my own body and mind. Nothing else but light existed. I recited the following gatha. From a clear sky, the bright moon shimmers on the stilled sea and snow-draped shore. In that holy light, I cannot find the water's edge. In that holy light, I cannot find the water's edge. When I returned to my room, I picked up a copy of the Shurangama Sutra, and letting it open at random, I read the following verses. Your mind and your body and all the mountains, rivers, and spaces of the earth are merely phenomena that exist within the one bright, true mind. Your mind and your body and all the mountains, rivers, and spaces of the earth are merely phenomena that exist within the one bright, true mind. At that moment, I gained such insight into the sutra's meaning that I immediately began to write the Hanging Mirror of the Shurangama Sutra. The work was finished in no time at all. That evening, when the evening meditation in the hall had ended, I asked the monk, who held the second highest office in the monastery, to come and read my manuscript to me. I listened, feeling as if the words were being spoken in a dream. The 42nd year, 1587 to 8. That year, when the temple repairs were finally completed, I started teaching Buddhist precepts, Jukai, to faithful followers in the new hall. Once the hall was formally opened, monks came from all over the country to attend my talks. Especially for the benefit of laymen, I gave a lecture called Straight Talk to the Heart Sutra. That autumn, in the 8th month, District Magistrate Hu Zhongchen, who had gone back to his native home after he had resigned his office, returned to visit me. He brought a relative's son with him and asked if I would accept him as a monk and also would allow him to serve me as my attendant. I agreed, naming the young man Fusheng. The 43rd year, 1588 to 9. One day, after reading the Hanging Mirror of the Shurangama Sutra, a disciple came to me complaining there was still too much in the sutra that puzzled him. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? I still don't get it. Come on, make it clearer. This sutra is usually very clear about how we should regard the soul, he said, but there is much written between the lines and needs to be explained. In order for students to understand its profound meaning, additional commentary is needed. Then he added, such a commentary would be the greatest gift anyone could give the Buddhist Dharma. Well, I immediately began to write the thorough meaning of the Shurangama Sutra. Although I completed an outline of my thoughts, I didn't finish the manuscript. The 44th year, 1589 to 90. That year, I read the Tripitaka and gave lectures on the Lotus Sutra and the Awakening of Faith. If you've never read the Awakening of Faith, in Mahayana is the full title, it's really a terrific document. I used to read it over and over and over years ago. There's a very good translation by Yoshida Hakata, I believe, from Columbia University. And it's really a document worth really getting into in terms of the foundation of what Zen is helping us to realize and actualize. But this is a philosophical work. It's brief, and I think it's very clear. Anyway, since leaving Five Peak Mountain, I continuously thought about visiting my parents. But I was always afraid of becoming involved in worldly affairs. Now, however, I decided to test myself. One evening in the 10th month, as I opened my eyes after meditating, the following lines occurred to me. I've watched the smoke spiral into the void of space. In that bright mirror, I've seen a myriad things. But last night, a dragon gulped the shining moon, and in the blackness, I saw what I had missed. In the blackness, when the moon sets and the sky is completely dark, that's when I saw what I had missed. I called my attendant and told him, now I can return to my native village to see my parents. I needed to express my gratitude to them. I planned first to go to the capital to ask the emperor to donate a copy of the Tripitaka from Bao'an Temple. The emperor happily granted my request, and as soon as I received the volumes, I started my return journey without delay. In the 11th month, as I was traveling south to Longjiang, the stupa there had begun to emit light. The light shone for several days, and when I approached one evening bringing the Tripitaka, the light bent northwards like a bridge, and the monks were able to walk in the light to come and welcome the Tripitaka. When the sutras were safely shelved, a ceremony was held. The light continued to shine for days, and the thousands of people who witnessed it believed that this truly was a rare and favorable sign. When we were in China in 2006 on pilgrimage, one of the temples we went to housed the entire Tripitaka carved on stone tablets, many, many tablets. It turns out in an earlier, it wasn't that long before, maybe 50 years before that or something, people had seen light emanating from a hillside, and they began to dig there. And when they dug, they uncovered these stone tablets of the Tripitaka that had been buried. They'd been carved probably hundreds of years earlier, but they'd been buried during the Cultural Revolution, so they wouldn't be destroyed. And at some point, these tablets, these stone tablets, began to emit light that shone right through the earth, and that's how they were found. And then this temple was built up around them. And we saw the tablets, so it was really quite an interesting story. Once again, old tales spring to life in our time. So, as soon as my mother learned that I was returning, the Tripitaka, when the sutras were safely shelved, the ceremony was held. Right, okay. Then as soon as my mother learned that I was returning, she sent a messenger to ask me exactly when I'd be home, and also how much time I planned to spend there. I told him to explain that since I was also conducting official business, I couldn't be precise about my arrival time. I then joked, if she's as happy to see me arrive as she was to see me leave, I'll spend 2 nights at home with her. Remember the whole story of how his mother feigned cruelty and pushed him aside and beat him and drove him to the ferry to make him go to school so that he could become learned. And only later did he learn that she used to go to the ferry site and sob because she missed him so much. But she felt as a parent she had to do that to give him every possibility in life. So I then joked, if she's as happy to see me arrive as she was to see me leave, I'll stay 2 nights at home with her. When my mother heard this, she said, seeing him again after all this time will be like meeting him in the next life. I am so happy. And 2 nights, just 1 night would have been enough, but now he's going to stay for 2. She was so happy. When she finally saw me, she couldn't stop laughing. I was surprised and delighted by her reaction. She had invited many friends and relatives to come to the house that evening, and we spent the entire night talking together. Did you come by boat or road? An elderly clansman of mine asked. Why ask about how he got here? My mother replied. Well, where'd he come from? The elder then asked. He came from the stars, my mother answered. I laughed. No wonder she let me leave home. Then I asked her, did you think of me after I left? How could I not think about you? I worried all the time. What did you worry about? At first, I didn't know where you were. Then a monk told me you were at 5 Peak Mountain, and I asked him in what direction that was, and he said north. Your son is staying under the Great Bear. So every night I looked up at the Great Bear and thought of you as I recited the Bodhisattva's name. Remember, she was a devotee of Kuan Yin, Bodhisattva of great compassion. I saw you up there every night. If someone were to tell me you had died, I would have said, no, he's still there. What I'm looking at now must be your transformation body. The following day, we went to pay our respects to our ancestral graves. While there, I found a suitable gravesite for my parents. My father was 80 years old at the time, so I joked and said I might as well bury him now, so I won't have to return later. Then, pretending to dig, I struck the ground several times with a mattock. My mother pulled the mattock from my hands and began to dig, saying, while we're at it, I might as well dig my own grave too. Then nobody will have to be bothered. On the 3rd day, I said goodbye to my parents. My mother, happy as usual, showed no sign of grief. She was such an extraordinary woman. At Jimo, I had a disciple named Huang Na-shan, alias Ji Guang, who was a brother of an official named Wang. He became my disciple when he was 19 years old, and I had only recently arrived at my seaside residence at Donghai. I taught him the Shurangama Sutra, which he learned by heart in 2 months. Then, despite the opposition to his parents, he firmly decided to become a vegetarian. He was so earnest in his Chan practice that he often went without sleep, even though he knew that I was on my way back to Donghai. He still prayed to Guan Yin for my safe and early return. He said, "We are frontier people." For a long time, we never even got to hear about the 3 treasures. Then, by some great fortune, a wonderful master came to be our teacher and our friend. So much do we now rely upon him that if he fails to return, we will not survive the loss. Then, as a sacrificial offering, he cut his arm and inserted a lit candle into the bleeding slot. He prayed to Kuan Yin as the candle burned down and cauterized the wound. They did some strange things in China, like burning incense on the head to make marks on the shaved head, cutting off fingers to indicate your dedication to really become a monk or nun, so your parents would let you go. Things that, Wei Ke cut off his arm to impress Bodhidharma, to relent and open the gates of compassion. Fortunately, we don't have to do such things, but we do have to be sincere. We do have to be sincere. So even in Teisha, we're working on our practice. We're not just sitting back and listening to a lecture. There's the breath right now. There's hearing right now. We allow the Teisha in, like wind in the trees. We practice the Teisha. Sincerity is that kind of giving, but we don't have to cut off our flesh. Just cut off our self-centeredness, and we're all okay, just as we are. It took 3 months for the painful wound to heal, but when it did, it left a scar that, mysteriously, took the form of Kuan Yin's face. The features were as clearly recognizable as if they'd been purposefully drawn. Though he lived at home with his mother and his wife, he did not tell them the story of the scar. Then, when he came to me saying that he would leave home if I would accept him as a monk, I regretfully refused. He protested. "Haven't I proven my devotion to the Dharma?" he asked. "Why won't you let me become a monk?" But since he had already committed himself to domestic responsibility, I had to refuse. We have our responsibilities. We have our vows. We have our bodhisattva vows to live our lives as the people we are. This is no hindrance to practice. In fact, it's my firm belief that lay life is one of the most significant ways to practice, because we have to be for real. We have to mature as we practice. We can't just hang out in, how wonderful. We have to be in the world of differentiation, in the world of gain and loss, of good and evil, of anxiety and difficulty, of caring and nurturing, of friendships and family. This is a path of maturing as a human being. It's a central path, and I feel it's one of deep, deep value. It's not secondary whatsoever, but we have to be sincere and do our best. That's all. Just do our best, whatever our circumstances. It doesn't mean ignore things, just given our circumstances, do sincerely one's best. Anyway, this incident showed me that the seed of Buddhahood could take place even in a spiritual wasteland. Remember, this had been a place without Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha, and he had kind of opened the door to that in the area he was living. When I first decided to stay at Five Peak Mountain, my intention was to await an opportune time to rebuild Bao En Temple, which had been destroyed by fire. Of course, the project required money, too, but while much time made itself available, no money did. Yeah, the old refrain. I got time, but I don't have money. Well, what can you do? I moved to the seashore. I continued to await an advantageous time to press for the necessary funds. This occurred when I was transporting the Tripitaka to the southern capital. I wrote a detailed plan for rebuilding the temple and presented it to the Empress Mother. I acknowledged the difficulty of raising so much money, but suggested it could be amassed a little at a time by, say, cutting imperial food expenses by a mere 100 taels a day. The savings would add up until, in 3 years, the reconstruction could begin. In 10 years, it could be completed. The Empress Mother was pleased with this proposal and ordered that in the 12th month of that year, 100 taels a day should be set aside from the food budget. The 45th year, 1590 to 91. In the spring of that year, I copied the Lotus Sutra in payment of my gratitude to the Empress Mother. During this time, a few Taoist cult members got together with their priests and claiming that their Taoist temple site had been unjustly seized by me. Wow, politics, eh? Tried to take possession of what was now Buddhist land and temples. They stirred up a crowd of people and rioting as the provincial viceroy's headquarters demanded the return of their property. 2 of my attendants and I were present during the riot. We tried to calm the crowd, but they were too unruly. Viceroy Li, believing they had no just claim, played for time by insisting that he would send the case to Li Zhu for a thorough investigation. The crowd was not appeased. Sound familiar? Jeez. At one point, my attendants and I were surrounded by an angry mob. I immediately dismissed my 2 attendants and moved ahead alone. One of the mob leaders confronted me with a knife in his hand, threatening to kill me. I kept my composure and said gently, "And if you kill me, do you really think you'll get away with it?" Grudgingly, he sheathed the knife. Seeing that he was in a more amenable frame of mind, I began to walk with him, trying to reason with him. We walked together for a couple of miles and were on the point of parting amicably when the crowd suddenly decided that he had betrayed them and ran towards him, threatening to beat him. Fearing that they'd kill him, I quickly grabbed his arm and practically dragged him to my residence. Inside, I had him disguised, and then we sat down pretending to be casually chatting and laughing and eating some fruit. Of course, a rumor had already spread that Taoists were murdering Buddhist monks, and when the prefect heard the rumor, he immediately sent militia to arrest the crowd. Boy, I think I almost have a feeling we're going to walk out here at the end of Sesshin into the same situation. This is like prophetic in the saddest way, though it's also terribly funny. He immediately sent militia to arrest the crowd. Seeing the militia and the prefect and knowing we were not safe, I had my Taoist guest change back into his old clothes. The crowd, thoroughly frightened, kowtowed to me, begging me to save them. "Did these rioters murder any Buddhist monks?" the prefect asked. "Rioters? No, this group of people didn't kill anyone," I said simply. "In fact, their leader and I have been sitting here talking quietly and enjoying a little fruit." "What was all the noise about?" the prefect demanded to know. "That was just marketplace noise," I answered. "Just disperse the crowd. There's no need for jail." The prefect quickly understood the true situation and ordered the local authorities to send the people back to their homes. In less than 3 days, law and order were completely restored. Our fervent wish is that will happen here in our own land. Law and order will be thoroughly restored. But my sense is it will take more than 3 days. That year, I wrote a commentary on the works of Lao Ji and Zhuangzi. I think that's Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi, basically. My 46th year, 1591 to 2. Anybody feel like he's starting to catch up to them? 46 is no longer a spring chicken. He's coming into his own. What a life, though, huh? In this year, the Empress Mother commissioned a sandalwood statue of Vairochana Buddha for the main temple hall, which was now completed. In the autumn, my disciple Zhuangzi Guang died while sitting in meditation. The 47th year, 1592 to 3, and this is where we'll stop at the end of his 47th year. He lived, as said, to about 78 or 9, so we will continue on with this incredible, really lively tale. In the 7th month of the year, I went to the capital and visited Master Da Guan in his mountain lodge. Centuries before, in the Jin Dynasty, Dharma Master Guan worried that Buddhist teachings were in danger of disappearing and had the sutras carved in stone. Whoa, this may be the source of that whole deal of those sutras, of everything, whatever it was that was carved in stone on those tablets, which then during the Cultural Revolution hundreds of years later were buried. It might have happened during this time. He then stored the stones in a nearby cave. Later, however, Buddhist monks decided, get this, to sell the temple and stupa, and so the buildings remained not serving any Buddhist cause until Master Da Guan came and redeemed them. He took me to the cave and showed me the treasure of stone sutras. It was all such a wonderful story that I did not hesitate when he asked me to write it out. Delighted to do so, I recorded the recovery of the stones, the stupa, and temple. I also took some time to organize the manuscripts that I had written at Ha-Yin Temple. Then, for 40 days and nights, Master Da Guan and I sat facing each other as if we were united in one state of samadhi. This was the most beautiful time of my life. We'll stop here. This was the most beautiful time of my life. So we will pick this up after session.